I'm gonna have to take a break.
All right. Oh, alrighty. Welcome to the 149th edition of the MMA Circus here on BloodyElbow.com and live on YouTube. My name is Nick Baldwin, back for the first time in quite a number of weeks. I think it's three more than usual. It is Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, our guest co-host. I said
My
that for
guest
real.
co-host.
I
Yeah,
said that for real.
I've just been demoted live on air, people.
Man, how's it
No, it has
going?
been 3 weeks.
It has been.
Well, like I missed 2 shows, so it's 3 weeks. It's
Exactly.
the same
We
idea.
don't need to have this debate every week. I know
We've
how
gone
to do
over.
math.
We've gone over this before. Things are going well. I think winter's almost over.
Really?
Can you say the same?
No, it's still very cold here.
No, it actually snowed a couple days ago, but I'm feeling like it was one of those. You ever have a snowstorm and you're like, oh, that's the last time it's going to snow, and you just
Well,
feel it.
we fingers crossed, but
Oh, well, yeah, but me, I can always kind of like tell. And I was like, oh, that was like the last ditch effort of the New York winter.
I guess maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And I've been traveling too, so that helps me kind of like I came back and I noticed that it's noticeably like warmer here.
Where you went to California?
I went to California and then I went to Seattle. Yeah.
Seattle. What's going down in
Yep.
California and Seattle? Second time in California in a while, or in not very long.
I go to California at least twice a year. Nah, at least
You
once a
said
year, but
twice a
more
year,
likely
and you've
3.
been in like twice in the past 2 months.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they were very quick back to back trips, and I actually go to Las Vegas in like 3 weeks. But I travel for work, and I had meetings at LA and then in Seattle. So
Andrew Lawrence, the bigwig, over at
I
Comic
tell
Book
you,
Central.
I'm not quite. I basically am an international businessman. That's just keeping it national right now.
Fair enough. The wind chill here, just for what it's worth in Winnipeg, is -10 Fahrenheit.
Oh my good lord! What's the temperature out? Like, what was the high today?
Oh, the high. You stumped me there. The high was probably around 5, so not terrible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not. I think today it was like 45 in the city.
Damn, that's not bad.
That's chilling. Right now it's 30, but it's
The Super
nighttime.
Bowl was this past weekend. Your
Yep.
beloved
Oh
New
my
England
goodness.
Patriots
Oh
fell
my goodness.
short just by a little bit.
If we want to have this show and we want to have this be friendly, then let's move on from the Super Bowl because it really was gut wrenching to watch. We could have stolen another Super Bowl, and I would have loved to see it. I'm not too sad about it for whatever reason. I think maybe it's all the championships we've won. Maybe it's a collection of a bunch of things, but I don't. I'm not nearly as heartbroken as I feel like as I could have been or would have been in Super Bowls past.
Maybe because it's a close game. Maybe because you guys went up ahead, sort of had that, oh, look at this, it's a game. I mean, because I was actually at my grandparents' for about the first half. We drove home through most of the third quarter, and I'm looking on my phone, and Dad, guess what the score is? He's like, I don't know, 20-10. No, it's almost tied up, and so.
Yep. It was a crazy game. You think Tom Brady has the ball at the end of it, that we could do something. We needed one more stop from the defense. We let up 44 points. You let up 44 points, you lost the Super Bowl. Sorry. That's how football works. You let up 44 points, you lose games. That's it.
Did you see all of the videos of Philadelphia getting absolutely trashed? I mean, it's not really surprising.
Yeah, no, they're savages. People from Philadelphia, it's not really a city. It's just a group of buildings with wild men living inside of them. Yeah, it's not a good place. They don't have respect.
Like, they didn't just climb like poles, like streetlights. They dug them out of the ground and carried them around.
Yeah, I thought that was a fitting touch. They've been, I don't know, they climb lamppost a lot, so then they lubed them up, which is just hilarious video to watch police officers lubing up the sides of massive, street lamps. Yeah, so tear them off. Great, awesome. Like, is it like how many days or weeks is it going to take to rebuild Philly? Isn't Philly a broke town? I figured that Philly isn't like doing great. Actually, they probably are doing fine. But like, why are you trashing your own shit? That seems stupid.
It boggles my mind, and maybe because I come from good old calm Winnipeg where nobody does anything bad or wrong, but it just seems bizarre. Go to and celebrate by.
What's the craziest Canadian thing we've seen like that? Oh no, Vancouver, fucking at the Stanley Cup. They rioted during the Stanley Cup. That's fucked up. But they lost, so that made a little bit more sense, right? Or didn't
exactly. That makes sense. Go dig up the light poles if you lose.
Boston come from behind and beat them?
I don't know the specifics,
but anyway,
I know Boston beat Vancouver, and
but anyway, so it had some more logic to it. But yeah, don't riot in your own town. If you're visiting someone else's town and you have a gang of people from your town, then definitely riot because there's no consequences. You don't have to clean that shit up.
No, it's weird. Straight up, it's weird. But this is
honestly, if you watched a video of someone flip over a car, doesn't a small part of you want to be like, I want to flip over a car too?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's the spirit of a riot. That we just captured it right there. As soon as you see some dude do crazy shit, you're like, I kind of want to do that crazy shit too.
I feel like it's not about, oh, let's go and trash our city. It's, I'm so drunk, I'm on cloud 9. Let's just they don't even realize.
No one can stop me. I'm an outlaw.
Nah, you know what
you're doing when you're breaking shit.
Maybe.
I've done a lot of drunk shit in my life. I've never believed that shit when people are like, I was so drunk, I totally don't. And I'm like, in the moment you did. I know. I've been fucking hammered. I blacked out too. You're so responsible, dickhead.
Well, this isn't called the NFL Circus. It is the MMA Circus. So I suppose we should move on to a little face punching. We had one event
emphasis on a little bit. Emphasis on a little bit, Nicholas, because there ain't shit going on.
You're kind of right. I mean, Romero, Luke Rockhold are fighting this weekend. That's fun. But if you checked out UFC 221 anytime recently, it's not a very good card. It's a pay-per-view card. It costs $65 or however much pay-per-views cost nowadays, because I feel like it's going up.
Yeah, there are $65.
This is not worth $65. Don't buy UFC 221. Rockhold Romero's fantastic. I love the fight. Interim title kind of makes it stupid, but great fight. Number 1 contender match. But for $65 with prelims attached to it, no thanks.
Yeah, right. You're basically
not to be a crotchety old man, but this is bad.
First of all, you are a crotchety old man. That is your role. And somehow I'm the youthful, hopeful one in this podcast, and you are the crotchety old man. But you're basically like, are you willing to pay $65 to watch Yoel Romero fight Luke Rockhold? Plus, you get to watch Mark Hunt in the in his fading twilight of his career fight Curtis Blades. There's basically no one. That's what you're asking yourself. Is that worth $65 to you? No, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a hardcore, but I'm also a dude who will pirate the fuck out of a lot of things. So I got ways and means. I'll figure a way to see it. But yeah, definitely not chipping in for the $65. Everyone knows my rules. If someone comes over to my house and people have an open invitation on Saturdays to come over and hang out, if anyone wants to come over and watch the UFC, then I'll buy it. But ain't no one coming over. So
that basically means you'll pay $30 for it, and that's reasonable. But yeah. If it's all by yourself, just you and your alcohol and your comic books and your video games, not gonna quite cut it. Comics books don't chip in.
No, they don't, unfortunately. And everyone, you should all learn to play video games while watching the UFC. Like, how do you deal with the commercials and all of the bullshit in between it? Video game.
Becoming a better idea. People don't realize that. I mean, I don't do it. I just sit there and tweet the random stuff while the commercial is going on, and it's boring. So
yeah,
do
multitask during fight night, boys. That's all we're saying.
Be productive during fight night. Don't just watch fight night. Do other things.
Do other things.
Go live a life during.
Start a small business.
Sure.
Write a novel.
Watch other fights. Go watch Fight Pass old fights. No, one thing I want to mention, Pancrase. I don't know if you saw, there's a crazy fight last weekend in the main event of the Pancrase card, 290 something. It was in Japan, of course. It was back and forth. It was a brawl. The first 2 rounds were kind of slow, but by round 3 and 4 particularly, this was one of the best fights. I mean, obviously the best fight we've seen this year, and it'll go down as one of the better ones all of 2018.
Really? No clue who it was between?
Okay. Well, you always give me homework. and that I don't do, but I really do want you to go watch this one afterwards because it was worth your time. But let's go back. Let's go back to UFC Fight Night 125 in Belem, Brazil this past Saturday. What did you make of the entire card? We had a lot of weird things happen, I think, last weekend surrounding this card, not just related to the actual fights that went down, but we had cancellations. We had almost 3 fighters heavy, officially 2 fighters that were overweight, Michel Prazeres and Pedro Munoz. We had John Dodson versus Pedro Munoz, bantamweight fight in the co-main event. It was canceled. Munoz missed weight, and Dodson declined the fight for various reasons, including, I believe, it is his last fight on his contract. So we'll talk about that. What did you make of the entire card? A lot of controversy, particularly in the co-main. We'll get to that as well, the new co-main. But top to bottom, did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Or were you just playing video games all night?
It got a little bit tedious, right? Somewhere, right, because I'm watching the whole card, somewhere after, I don't know, let's say that Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos fight was probably like the high point of the card. And, you know, you were like, this is great. Like, I'm having a good time. And then we slowly eased our way into some pretty boring shit until we got to the co-main and main event. You know, and then we were a party to, you know, we're all witnesses to murder when Valentina Shevchenko just beat the piss out of that poor Brazilian girl. And then we got to watch the main event, which is all you're really there for. You're kind of there to see the legend, Lyoto Machida, see what he can do. It was an interesting fight. Lyoto didn't look good, right? So I was happy in a way because he got the victory, so we'll get to see him again. But I don't want to see him facing guys like Eric Anders and shit. That's not what you know, we need to see Lyoto Machida fighting other aged fighters. I'm thinking Lyoto versus Rashad Evans makes sense. Lyoto versus Shogun makes sense. There's a bunch of fights you can put Lyoto Machida in that don't have to be young, undefeated prospects. For Eric Anders, it was interesting watching him not be able to solve that puzzle despite basically winning the fight. You know, he still definitely didn't do enough that you were like, oh shit, he really got robbed really badly. So overall, it was a somewhat interesting night of fights, but there was a lot of fucking boredom in the middle of that.
So I'll give my 2 cents on the main event, and I feel like I'm kind of in the minority here by saying, well, I didn't enjoy it, and that's not an unpopular opinion by any means. Machida versus Anders was not a good fight. If you enjoyed it, then you must enjoy every UFC fight. Like, I mean, it wasn't the worst I've ever seen, but by no means was I ever entertained at one moment in the fight.
Well, hold on. Let's remember, like, he drops Lyoto a couple times, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Boom, and he kind of recovers. There's moments in the fight. Like, don't get too.
Well, for 25 minutes, of course, things happened, but
people almost got finished. That was kind of crazy, and it was
Machida was never hurt badly.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't. I don't. I'd have to look back, but I don't remember.
You would, because there was a very boring 4th and 5th round that the judges gave to him. That really tarnished the whole fight. And it's Lyoto, you know, backing up and landing kicks and, you know, not doing much that's going to be like fight-ending wow damage. You know.
I feel like I'm glad to see Machida back in the winning column because he's one of the best to do it at 205, at 185. Former champion at 205, fought for the title at 185. The guy's a legend. He is a future Hall of Famer for sure. So it's good to see him back in the winning column. And not just that, but it's good. Like, it's not like I have anything against Anders, but I didn't really want to see Anders knock him out because that'd be depressing. Yeah. You have this up and coming kid, not even kid, he's 30, but fight years wise, as we talked about 3 weeks ago, the tread on a wheel when that's still very
learning
new, so to speak. You don't want to see those guys knock out these vets that we all loved at one point. And so at least that didn't happen. That was a positive, but not enough happened. I mean, Machida didn't look good. That's the thing. Machida won, but he didn't look good. And I think I don't know about you, and I think this is where my opinion becomes more unpopular, I think, is when I say I think Anders' upside went down a little bit, or his ceiling sort of we saw where his ceiling is, because I don't know, he's going to get better, but at 30 years old, even just 11 fights into your pro career, 3rd in the UFC, I feel like you should beat 2018 Machida.
Yeah, it's really it was a litmus test for Anders. I mean, that's how these fights go. A rising star against a fading, former champion. You really are testing them to see if they're ready to make a run. Because if Eric Anders can't finish decisively Lyoto Machida, then he's clearly not ready to catch a whiff of anyone in the elite half of the 85-pound division. So even though he looked and probably should have won the fight, in my opinion, I like judging a fight as a fight sometimes. Just being like, who should have won that fight? Eric Anders should have won that fight.
Yeah.
Even though he could have won this fight and probably should have, it was a clear exposing of the flaws in his game. So either he's got to fix those flaws really quickly because he is 30, or he's just going to be a middling 85.
That's pretty much how I see it, and I'm glad that you sort of agree because when I talked to Jed about this when we did our post-fight show last Saturday, he wholeheartedly did not agree. Let's talk about the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko defeats Priscilla Cachoeira by second round rear naked choke, tap out, merciless tap out. I don't know what you call this. Mary Yamasaki. I have a lot of things to say about this. Yamasaki stoppage was horrid. It was not a good stoppage at all. It was way too late. It could have been stopped. I mean, I feel like I rewatched the fight. I rewatched it yesterday, and I think the amount or the instances in which Yamasaki should have stopped it decreased from my first viewing, but there was still more than one before when Cachoeira tapped out, and so that's not good whatsoever. He missed a tap by a couple seconds, or not even a couple seconds. I think we sort of overblow that a little bit, but Cachoeira basically had to tap almost twice until Yamasaki saw it. So that's not good, arguably even worse. But all of that said, I feel like we're putting the blame a little too much on the referee. I know some people are talking about this, and I applaud you if you are. I think we need to highlight the fact that this fight shouldn't have happened. The Brazilian MMA Athletic Commission should not have allowed this fight to go on, and UFC shouldn't have even considered pairing Cachoeira up with arguably the best women's fighter on the planet right now. Definitely the best women's flyweight, and also the cornerman. The cornerman didn't throw in the towel. That's a whole other discussion. Do you throw in the towel in MMA? I say yes, but that's a big problem. We saw Roxanne Modafferi on Twitter after this fight say, I would never want my corner or the commission to step in unless I tap or I'm unconscious. That's just a fighter in me. That's a sentiment a lot of fighters share. I think we need to work on that. They need to hold summits and say, hey, fighters, we know you're tough, but there will be instances in which we need to step in because we can't, if a referee is that bad or you're getting beat on that badly and nothing's happening, we need to teach cornermen that it is okay to throw in towels. So I think we need to put the blame a little more on corners, on the promotion, on the commission.
Okay, no, I don't agree with that at all. There's a reason why the referee is specifically given his job. It is to stop fights to protect the fighters. Mario Yamasaki, and this isn't an isolated incident, but in this fight, he failed to realize when a fighter had stopped defending themselves and was simply in there trying to survive. That is like a clear distinction that you need to have. Being able to judge that on site while watching a fight, you need to realize when a fighter stopped doing defense, intelligent defense, which means I'm doing this with the hope of landing my own offense at some point. Or someone who is just like, holy shit, like I need to protect myself from not taking a savage beating right now. This isn't the first time that Yamasaki's struggled with this concept either. He's proven himself to be an inept referee, time and time again. Remember, he let Derek Lewis pound Travis Brown's face into the mat. He's given people taps without seeing taps. Remember that Chiesa thing, and even Cowboy against Cowboy. That was when Brazilian Cowboy Alex Oliveira fought Cowboy Cerrone. He taps clearly, And he does the exact same thing. Yamasaki looks at him and and sees the tap, is in sight line of the tap, but then he has to tap again, and he almost fully goes out. So Yamasaki's just proven himself to be a subpar referee. That's all that's going on here. This fight should have been stopped earlier. Fights should be stopped earlier in MMA in general. But no, I don't think that it's the responsibility of the fighter or commission. It's
not the responsibility of the UFC to put on fair fights.
No, it is. I mean, you can have
they failed to do that.
They put off fair fights. You can have the preference that they put on fair fights, and I would prefer that they do too. But combat sports forever has had people who, you fight lower level fighters. That's how people get in. Like, this was a showcase fight. There's been showcase fights in boxing.
This was a showcase fight times 1,000, though. This is the biggest
disparity levels like this aren't unheard of in combat sports in general. Maybe unheard of in high level elite UFC MMA. It's rare, but it's not that rare. I could find minus 1,000 underdogs in UFC, pretty frequently if I went back. I would find one regularly. And in regional MMA, you'll see it all the time. Never mind in combat sports in general. In boxing, you'll see much bigger underdogs than that. This is a primetime showcase fight. It's the part of the referee's job to realize it's a showcase fight and not let the girl take a fucking vicious ass whooping like that. Come on, be real about it. Like, this girl didn't have to take that many shots to be a warrior in case she made a comeback. This ain't fucking Robbie Lawler. This isn't someone who, like, you know what the score is, right? You should be aware of the circumstances of a fight. So it's only more to the point that she was such a green fighter in comparison to Shevchenko's level. The referee should be aware of that experience discrepancy. So everything and every argument that anyone's made about why this fight went on too long, to me, points a finger directly at Mario Yamasaki and how inept he is as a referee. If you want to blame something on the UFC, blame the fact that they have the influence to say to commissioners, hey, fuck this guy, don't hire him, and they'll listen. So they should just be doing that. And if they want to blame anyone, they have to blame themselves. But let's be real, this is one person's job, and one person is inept at their job, and it's Mario Yamasaki.
Yamasaki, I think, is the first person you blame, but I disagree. I still think you need to keep in mind, we're not talking about regional MMA. Regional MMA will have lesser competitive fights because we don't know as much about these fighters because they're 3-0, 1-0, 0-0. Maybe they've never fought before, or we just don't know enough about them or as much about them. And so we will see bigger discrepancies in skill level. And that's why one of them will go to the UFC one day and one won't. One will end up being a nobody. But on the highest level, we should not see this big of a mismatch. And I think that's quite ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to see more competitive fights, but that is a preference. But that is not a thing that should be expected in combat sports.
In the UFC, it should be. I mean, we have seen Demetrius Johnson has to fight flyweight contender, flyweight challengers.
He probably fought a minus 1,000 in one of his title fights.
Demetrius Johnson has never been in this big of a mismatch. Not even close. The guy he's fighting are skilled fighters. He's just so good.
Not according to odds makers. I bet you I could find that he's been a minus 1,000 favorite against some.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, Shevchenko though should have been like minus. I mean, if DJ was minus 1,000 to say Chris Carriazo, Shevchenko should have been about minus 5,000 to Cachoeira.
Against Tim Elliott, he was a minus 1,000. He was a minus 1,425 against Chris Carriazo.
That's crazy, and that's
a bigger mismatch according to
odds. But no, you cannot say DJ and between the discrepancy in skill between DJ and Carriazo and Shevchenko and Cachoeira are similar or larger for DJ and Carriazo. That's incorrect.
Okay, whatever. I mean, ultimately, everyone should be in the camp of Mario Yamasaki no longer a UFC referee, and that's the biggest takeaway here.
Fair enough. Michelle Prazeres, Desmond Green. We had some controversy here. Before we get to that, I want to talk about John Dodson, Pedro Munoz. John Dodson, as I said off the top, was supposed to fight Munoz. Munoz comes in overweight by 4 pounds. He weighed in at 140 for their 136-pound bantamweight fight. And Dodson revealed on the MMA Hour yesterday to Ariel Helwani that he offered to take the fight if he renewed a contract or if he got more money, something like that. And the UFC said no. And so that's more to the story than we heard initially, that Dodson just turned it down. Nonetheless, he turned it down. The UFC said no to his offer. It didn't happen. Do you think Dodson, we're kind of doing an early gets, it doesn't get it almost. Is Dodson in the right here? Do you think Dodson should have turned down Munoz as he did?
I respect his right to say to turn down the fight, but I think it was the bad strategic move. Meaning, like, if I was the person advising him, I still would have had him take the fight. But if he didn't want to take the fight, I'm cool with it. I really am. I think that we need to give fighters, especially ones that made weight and had their opponent completely miss weight, not make an attempt on the scale, not even make an official weigh-in. Say that they're going to take a catch weight, and it seems like there was some back and forth and some terms that they had brandied about. So, ultimately, I'm cool with Dodson taking this off. Fighters got to come in on weight, and yeah, I know things are tricky with the new weigh-ins, but it matters, especially for someone like Dodson who is so small. He is easily a 125er, so he's fighting dudes who are huge. They can, pack on an extra 4 or 5 pounds. That's massive difference.
I feel like some people don't realize how big an advantage, just proven by results, that being overweight is. Like, I admit that I didn't think it was a huge advantage maybe a year or more back, but I've realized we've seen overweight guys win fights, and I think one example that comes to mind, Alex Oliveira, when he TKO'd Will Brooks. He was so much bigger than Will Brooks, and lo and behold, he missed weight by a number of pounds in that lightweight fight and ended up moving up to welterweight after that permanently. It's a big advantage, and John Dodson, as far as I know, this was his last fight on his contract. Why go out there, risk losing your position on the UFC roster when you're fighting an overweight Brazilian in Brazil? It didn't make sense. And that sort of goes into Desmond Green basically doing the opposite. Desmond Green, Michel Prazeres, very similar situation, different outcome. Michel Prazeres missed weight yet again, and this time, I think by the most pounds he's ever missed by, he weighed in at 161 for their 156-pound lightweight bout.
They don't call him the tractor for nothing.
So, Des Green, after that happened, said, "I will fight him as long as he arrives at the arena at no more than 173 pounds. That seems fair." Michel Prazeres arrives at the arena at approximately 180 pounds reportedly, and Des Green says, "Hey, I went to Brazil. It was a long flight. I had a long camp. Why go? Why do all of this, all of these media obligations and everything, and go home with nothing?" So Des Green said, "I'm going to be a savage," as he said, and take this fight. But things go wrong. It didn't work out per se because Desmond Green lost the fight. He's now riding a 2-fight losing streak. Sure, he's a company man, so to speak. Does that matter anymore? In the era of WME IMG, does Ari Emanuel care that Des Green took a fight against an overweight Brazilian in Brazil on short notice? No, they don't. They really don't. And so I think back when Lorenzo Fertitta and Frank Fertitta were at the head, I think being a company guy meant more then than it does now. I think it means very little now. And I respect Des Green for stepping up. Did I want to see the fight? Sure. But should, in hindsight, especially, and even without the loss, sort of clogging or clouding our recollection of this and opinion on this, Des Green shouldn't have taken that fight.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 50-50 on that one, 2020. How many other times has Tractor missed weight?
I think this was his third.
His third time, huh? Was the last 2 times the last 2 of his fights, or is he spread it out a little bit?
I'm not sure.
He's been in the UFC, he must have like 8-9 fights in the UFC. He's been around for kind of a little while. Pretty good record. Probably has, screwed himself out of ever becoming any kind of real contender. By losing some key fights and never making weight. The UFC seems to do pretty good about, even when a guy takes a loss after, his opponent misses weight, of not cutting him. But you're basically sticking yourself in a situation where you have to win your next fight. which sucks because you're probably going to get matched up, and have to accept whoever they match you up with too. So you can't pick and choose your opponent. Yeah, it's tricky to kind of make those calls. I think you really have to look hard at the matchup and see how it matters. I think as soon as he came there and he was 180 pounds, he should have walked away from it. Is the UFC going to be so mad at you? Maybe they will be. Maybe that's the truth of it, in that it would have done worse for his career not to have taken the fight.
I can't blame him because at the time when he basically agreed to the fight, John Dodson reportedly was getting paid nothing. Since then, it's been corrected that he will apparently get a little bit of his show money, although he said on the MMA Hour yesterday, as of Monday, he still didn't know. And so reports say that he'll get a little bit of money, but he didn't know. He hadn't been told anything. And so that still seems to be up in the air. And so Des Green's probably seeing this and saying, okay, well, I should get paid even if I don't take the fight, but I'm not flying home with nothing. I better just take the fight. And so maybe it's not just about being a company guy. It's about I legitimately might not get that paycheck if I don't take this fight, even though I should and would deserve it. So I'm sure that sort of coerced him as well.
Yeah, poor Des Green. What do you think his paycheck was for the fight? He's a 10-10 guy, 12-12 guy.
30 grand maybe.
Yeah, they ain't giving him 30 grand.
Barely, like 24 maybe.
Nah, he's getting 10-10. Yeah, he needed to take the fight. You got to pay your coaches for the plane flights and all that. Everyone needed 10 grand, even if he was taking the loss. That's terrible. A guy weighing 180 pounds is a lot. When you guys were supposed to weigh in at 155, even if you rehydrated, say you were at 170, your opponent's at 180. Jesus, man, it's too much. What you gonna do?
Let's move on to this weekend. We have UFC 211 going down from Perth, Australia. In the main event, the interim UFC middleweight championship is on the line when Yoel Romero, former interim title challenger, of course, fell short to Robert Whittaker, the now undisputed champion, back in July of last year, taking on former undisputed champion Luke Rockhold. A fun fight at 185 pounds, of course. We all remember this was supposed to be Whittaker versus Rockhold. Whittaker has that nasty injury, sickness, everything going on in his life. It's terrible what has happened to Whittaker, and hopefully he gets better soon. It seems like he is recovering, so everything seems positive. But nonetheless, we have Romero Rockhold instead. Not a bad replacement by any means, but again, the card's not very good. But there's really not a. We'll talk the main event, and other than that, I don't know. What do you think about the main event, though?
I mean, I love Yoel Romero, and Luke Rockhold's, a really talented fighter. So I kind of almost wish this fight was happening on a better card, so it was getting more hype and much more love, because it's a fight that really does deserve a lot of love. This is what we want. We want, 185 pounds to get normalized again. We want all those elite 85ers to just be fighting each other. And we haven't got this combination yet of Romero Rockhold. God, I love when Yoel Romero fights. I think that he can beat anyone on any given day. He's just fucking dynamite in the cage. It makes me smile just thinking about him and him saying ridiculous things about Jesus and knocking people unconscious. He's just a terrifying, awesome man. So this is 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever the fuck your scale is, A+ all the way. This is the best part about MMA in 2018. We might be descending into a bunch of bullshit. We might be run by corporate overlords who are going to destroy the sport. But God damn it if we don't get to see Luke Rockhold fight Yoel Romero, and it's going to be awesome as fuck.
It will be. And I think something not enough people or just not many people at all are talking about is that this should have happened in early 2016 for the undisputed title. It was right after Luke Rockhold beat Chris Weidman. Romero beat Jacare Souza on the same card, the one where McGregor knocked out Aldo, UFC 194, December 2015. We all remembered, of course. We saw the two big middleweight fights in the second and third last fights, and it would have been champion Rockhold versus challenger Romero. Would have been this epic fight, and I was looking forward to it. Am I looking forward to it now just as much? Almost, not as quite, simply because it's basically two years later than we would have seen it, because 2 years can mean a lot. I mean, Romero is what, 39? Is he 40 yet? If
Yoel
not,
Romero
very
may be
close.
50 years old. There's no birth certificate that you could produce for Yoel Romero that I will believe.
50
You
years
want to
old.
talk about
still,
Obama's birth
still looking
certificate?
like
I
a
want to see
prime
Yoel Romero's
30-year-old,
birth
though.
certificate. I want to see Yoel Romero's birth certificate. He's 40. He's a 40-year-old man.
Wow, that's incredible.
He's the most incredible 40-year-old person ever.
He is. I cannot disagree with that. But I mean, I would have rather this been, say, 38-year-old Yoel Romero versus Luke Rockhold when he was, I don't know, 32 or whatever. But nonetheless, still an exciting fight. And the fact that this is for an interim title is just kind of stupid, as any interim title fight. But I don't even like to sort of think about that. I just look at this as number one contender fight. The winner fights Whittaker when he's ready to go. If not, I mean, if Whittaker's sidelined for the next year or whatever, then they're the champion. And so, I mean, I love the fight. It's a tough one to pick, and I think people can sort of agree. I think I feel like we're all on the same page, us as in the MMA community, as this is a close fight. It really could go either way. I feel like Rockhold has more ways to win, but Romero is just
Yoel Romero's that electric dude. You don't know what he's gonna do. Flying knees, knocking out Chris Weidman, and he could just get in a slugfest with you and destroy you. He could double leg the shit out of you and fucking maul you to death. Yoel Romero's special, but Luke Rockhold, I think, almost seems to me like he should be the favorite, and he probably is, right? He's probably like a minus 135 or something.
Something like that, which makes sense to me. Yeah,
it does. It makes a lot of sense. It is truly a fantastic main event. It's really, really a shame on the goddamn company that there's just utter crap surrounding it. Or if you wanted to do that, that could be cool, but make it a fight night card. Don't make us pay $65 for this shit. What the fuck, man?
So Are we going against the Holy War Angel? No, not the Holy War Angel. The Soldier of God.
Don't confuse the goddamn gimmicks. No, I refuse to do that. I'm picking Yoel Romero to win spectacularly. Yes. And then a Yoel versus Robert Whittaker rematch. It'll be brilliant.
Yeah, honestly, that's the one downside to the fight, because I think Whittaker beats Romero in a rematch and in a trilogy fight, in a fourth fight. I mean, I just think Whittaker beats everybody on the planet in the middleweight division, including the great Romero and certainly Rockhold. So here, that's the one downside. If Romero wins, he's going to fight Whittaker, and okay, whatever. I'll watch. It's not the most exciting fight to me, just because we've seen it, and I feel like it would sort of play out the same way, even though it was close. So you could argue that. Maybe it could go the other way. But here, I think Romero does get the job done. I haven't been impressed with Rockhold as of late. I mean, obviously the Michael Bisping knockout loss clouds my judgment in a big way. Getting knocked out by Bisping in 2016 is not a thing. It's not a fight you want to have on your record. Not a loss you want to have on your record. Sure, he can say he was overlooking Bisping, and I think that's a fair argument. But nonetheless, it's still there. He still did get knocked out by Michael Bisping, and I mean, he looked good against David Branch, but don't get the performance wrong. He did struggle a little bit on the feed. Branch had him up against the fence. He had. I feel like if David Branch can get Rockhold in, even though it was very brief, dangerous positions on the feet, Yoel Romero can. And I know Yoel Romero isn't like a guy who goes out there and just starches you in round one. As far as his punching goes, he'll land flying knees, he'll land unorthodox stuff. So, it's a weird matchup in that sense, but Rockhold has more ways to win. He has more tools, but Romero's just Yoel Romero. He, as you said, he can flying knee you from any angle. He can do all this crazy stuff, and I can't go against that. When Rockhold's chin might be bad, I'm concerned about Rockhold's chin. I'm concerned about Romero's age. I think maybe he hit his peak, but I also thought the same with Jacare. That's why I picked Brunson to knock him out last month, and look how that happened. So I got to go with the aging but still prime Yoel, the Soldier of God Romero.
Amazing. All that to land on Yoel. Are you taking Hunt over Blades? You don't have to give us the whole spiel, but just,
I don't know.
It's not that much of a spiel. So. Do you think old man Hunt can get it done?
I don't think so. It's close. I've been going back and forth, but Blades maybe, top position, grind him out, wrestling.
Has Blades been, grinding people out though? Is that like his game? I thought he's
That's
a
his
strike,
game. Yeah.
So, yeah, if that's going to be the case, then this is going to suck. But I hope that Mark Hunt can do it one more time.
Sure, fair enough. Anything we want to say on UFC 221? Ben Wen, Jose Formiga is a fantastic fight. Disappointing that it's the first fight on the prelims. They deserve to be on the main card easily. When this is such a bad pay-per-view card, the second best fight on the card is not on pay-per-view. That is a shame. And once again, the UFC proves that they could care less about their flyweight division. Anything else we want to mention?
No, the Celtic kid, Jake Matthews, the perennial Australian prospect, Jake Matthews. He's facing Jing Lang Li. You remember Jing Lang Li?
Of
He's
course.
like the only person to have survived from UFC China, the Leech.
I would never forget the Leech. The Leech is fantastic, and he'll probably
the Leech has all of a sudden become an action fighter out of nowhere. If you've actually he's always fighting on terrible cards, right?
And he's pretty good now,
Europe or China, but he's actually So he used to just hang on people. Remember that? That was like the Leech phase. Now he just swings wildly at people and occasionally knocks them out. It's actually unbelievable and fantastic.
Teruto Ishihara on the Fight Pass card. I'm not sure he gets the job done against Jose Quinones, though. Quinones, I think, is a bit more well-rounded. Probably gets it done there.
Against Henry Quinones?
Jose Quinones.
Jose Alberto Quinones. Okay, I have no clue who that person is. Oh, the Style Bender, Israeli.
Yes.
Is fighting.
I'm looking forward to him.
He is an undefeated prospect, but much more famous for what he's accomplished in the kickboxing ring. He's a glory kickboxer and has fought for a bunch of promotions. But it'll be really interesting to see him fight in, the biggest promotion in the world in MMA. He's fought MMA before, but it really was scattered in between and in some really low-level regional type things. He has a very unorthodox style. He's a young dude. So, him transferring into MMA could be massive. I hope they give him favorable style matchups so that he can really let his kicks go and just do some wild shit because he can be a lot of fun.
Moving away from Perth, we had a cancellation in the featherweight division. Champion Max Holloway injured his leg, and that was announced on Saturday, just a few days ago. He is out of his title defense against Frankie Edgar at UFC 222, March 3rd in Las Vegas. Very disappointing. I've been looking forward to that fight. It was supposed to happen in December. Of course, everybody has been anticipating this one. It's a great matchup for the featherweight title. It is off again, but the UFC thought they had something up their sleeves, and that was TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt, the rematch. They wanted to run it back for the bantamweight title champ, TJ Dillashaw, who knocked out Garbrandt for the title, to win the title for the second time back in November. But TJ Dillashaw said no. He said, I'm the champ. I just had a kid 5 weeks ago. I'm not in fight shape. I'm in Denver right now. My camp's in California. I have injuries. Garbrandt doesn't deserve a title shot. It took me 2 years to get back to the title. Why should it take Garbrandt, who didn't defend his title, one fight? Not even one fight. 0 fights. And so TJ Dillashaw said no. Cody Garbrandt fires back, calls him a bunch of stuff and says excuses, all of that. What do you make of that? Again, I feel like we're sort of going back to the John Dodson scenario. Similar situation. Do you turn down a fight? Do you say yes? Do you be company man? But I think TJ Dillashaw, I respect his decision, and I think he made the right one.
Honestly, I don't get how TJ gets involved in this anyway. This isn't his card that he was on. So the idea of like, hey, save this card. It was never your card in the first place, man. You never agreed to this fight. They're calling you when you're laying on your couch, chilling, hanging out. I totally support TJ's right to make whatever fucking decision he wants to make. He just had a kid, for Christ's sake. I think he could have done it and beat Garbrandt for the second time and never had to worry about Garbrandt again. I think that could have been possible, but if he wasn't 100% confident, then why the fuck would you do it?
He's risking his title because he's out of shape. He had a kid. He's not ready to go. And then all of a sudden, let's hop into a 4-week camp as the champion, as one of the best fighters on the planet. No, don't do that. And also risking a pretty big fight against Demetrius Johnson.
Exactly. So it seems like a lose-lose. Why the hell would you do it? This is on the UFC, and in all of these blames, the blame falls entirely upon the UFC, and somehow fandom like shifts it to like, should this fighter have done this, and should this have been done like that? And it's like, this isn't just like UFC. What was it, 151 with John Jones against Dan Henderson? Dan Henderson pulls out 6 days before the main event, and they give him a replacement option of Chael Sonnen, and they turn it down. And they lambast poor John Jones. Oh, yeah, and Greg Jackson, Sport Killer, the famous meme. So, same situation here. Like, why the fuck is TJ Dillashaw coming in anyone's mouth? It makes no sense to me at all. Everyone should be upset with the UFC because they don't book strong enough cards that if the main event falls out, it's still worth a pay-per-view. Shit, it's still not worth attending in... It's not worth getting the T-Mobile Arena booked for this card where it sits right now.
Yeah, Brian Carey versus Cody Stamen and Hector Lombard versus CB Dollaway.
Oh,
those are like the two biggest fights.
Do not hold on. I thought this was UFC 222. We got Kat Zingano fighting. That's a bigger name than both of that. The return of Kat Zingano, I think, puts more asses in seats. You got Struve versus Arlovsky.
I actually did forget about Struve Arlovsky.
You got King Bobby Green against Beneil Dariush,
which is actually a fun fight.
That's a great fight, man.
It's a good fight night right now.
Hector Lombard's fighting CB Dollaway, which is a thing that's happening in 2018. Oh, Sean O'Malley's fighting Andre Sukumta.
That's actually fun.
Yo, yeah. that's some exciting bantamweight action.
We have some fun fights there, but it's far from
Mackenzie Dern's making her debut.
It's a good fight night. Like I can't take anything away from that. It's a good fight night, but this is also UFC 222. There's a number on it because it costs $65.
And that ain't worth $65. They need a couple. Here's the thing. This isn't like the Perth card right now, which is unredeemable. If you put a cherry on top of this motherfucker, this could be a good pay-per-view. Look, we got goddamn Adam Milstead, the guy who I am always pretty sure is Canadian, but is he Canadian?
No,
he should be Canadian. I feel like Adam Milstead should be Canadian.
The thing with this card is that even with Holloway Edgar on it, like say Holloway didn't get hurt, it's not a good pay-per-view. Like it's one I would maybe buy just because Holloway Edgar is a super fun fight and like we have some fun matchups.
I got a buddy who's an Andre Arlovsky mark, and he might come over for it, so that might be a purchaser.
For $30, yeah, it's reasonable. I just want to say one last thing about Dillashaw-Garbrandt. Turn it down, don't turn it down. I feel like the whole stay ready at all times. You never know when the UFC call is coming. I don't like that. Just in general, I don't like that fighters have to be ready to go literally 100% of the time. It's like weight cuts are a thing. I mean, if you really want fighters to be ready to go, you need to fix weight.
Let them juice. Let them juice. Let them do steroids then.
The only time I can really understand it is when a fighter is not in the UFC and making their debut or wanting to make their debut sort of on the UFC's radar. If the divisions are jam-packed, then I can understand, hey, we don't have a spot for you, but someone might get hurt, so stay ready. I can understand that, but if you're wanting a champion to be ready at all times, give me a break.
Yeah, that's absurd. The UFC is being absurd. Any fans falling for this, it's dumb bullshit. And, I hate seeing fucking Cody Garbrandt out there talking shit, too. It's like, this wasn't a scheduled fight. None of this makes any sense. Now, Brian Ortega fighting Frankie Edgar, this makes some sense. Let's add that as a co-main event and add one more fucking title fight to it, and boom, now you got a good pay-per-view I'm ready to spend dollars on. Yeah, God damn it. Let's make it MMA exciting. Sorry, what were you saying?
I just said if you have another title fight, not Dillashaw-Garbrandt, but another one, and Edgar Ortega, that's an okay pay-per-view. That's reasonable. The one thing I don't like about Ortega Edgar is that I feel like, especially if Ortega wins, Edgar's never getting that title shot again. I want to see Holloway Edgar, and I want to see Holloway Ortega. I want to see both of those fights, and I feel like doing Ortega Edgar might eliminate one of the two. Only if Ortega wins, because if Edgar beats Ortega, Ortega can make the comeback. He'll be in the title mix maybe in another couple wins. But Edgar, this is kind of his last shot.
Man, that's how the cookie crumbles, man. That's just how it goes. He's not going to sit on the shelf. He's a fighter. He's going to fight anyway. So resign yourself to that idea. He's not going to wait around for a title shot. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, let him fight.
Although to be fair, he could sit out, and I don't think it'd be a bad decision at all if he said no to Ortega, and then
Doesn't seem like a
they
Frankie
can.
Edgar move. Doesn't
No,
seem
no,
like
I'm
a
not
thing
saying
Frankie
he'll
Edgar
do
would
it.
do.
Like he
Yeah.
wants to fight, he's gonna fight. But I'm saying it wouldn't be a bad decision if he said no.
Yeah.
I'm all about fighters saying no. Clearly, Dodson, Desmond Green, Dillashaw, Edgar. Just don't take any fights. Just boycott the UFC, people.
Solid tactic. You should go into management.
Gets it, doesn't get it.
Let's do them.
All right, first one, Brendan Schaub. I'm going to pass this over to you. Not because I don't want to explain it. I just want to hear you explain it because this might get it.
You know,
Somewhat
I hate how you never explain Gets It Doesn't Get It. Gets It Doesn't Get It is a game. We name someone in the MMA universe. We say if they got it this week or they did not get it. First up is Brendan Schaub. God, Brendan Schaub this week said a bunch. Well, it was really actually a very throwaway comment. He talked about and critiqued the UFC Tonight cast in their broadcast group. But then he said and he asked, he goes, we get it. You have an all-black cast. You're not racist. We get it. But is that the best grouping of people? You know, I hate the UFC Tonight cast, so I find it so hard to be critical of what he's saying. But why did you have to add the racial component of it? The problem with it isn't that, you know, it's too racially diverse. The problem is the only person who I like on there is Eve Edwards, and he's never on enough. So, Brendan Schaub, this week you did not get it.
Yeah, Brendan Schaub. Sorry, I don't care if you say you're not a racist. I mean, I'm not saying you are, but it's not a good look, and it'll just get more people talking about that. So, Brendan Schaub, sorry, but sorry, Big Brown, you do not get it. Next one, Ali Abdelaziz. This is another one you threw out there. He went on the MMA Hour again this past Monday, which would be yesterday if you're listening to this live on Tuesday. Why does Ali... I'm going to guess that you're saying he doesn't get it this week.
I don't know. I think something really special might have happened this week on the MMA Hour where Ali Abdelaziz has become so over the top and just so outrageous that he's nearly like a caricature of himself. So I almost enjoy listening to him, especially this week on the MMA Hour. He just went... You know, it's very typical for Ali Abdelaziz to call other fighters' managers bitches, directly call out how they're fucking up in their management style with the UFC, talk about how he would have handled situations better, challenge fighters, you know, to physical altercations. This is just, you know, par for the course of them, and it's been part of the reason why he's one of the worst characters in the sport. But when he in rapid succession, lays out how all these people are bitches and just like ripped into people with like, you know, his profanity laced tirade, it kind of was entertaining for me. I think I kind of finally understand that Ali Abdelaziz is the LeVar Ball of UFC. You know, he's the drunk uncle at your Thanksgiving dinner. If Thanksgiving dinner is everyone from MMA having a meal together. So oddly enough, Ali Abdelaziz gets it.
I can't buy it. Just my thing is Ali Abdelaziz, you don't get it ever, so that counts for this week too.
Right, anyone else?
Diaz and Tyron Woodley.
Oh God. Well, you know, the rumor is right now that Tyron Woodley is going to be fighting Nate Diaz. They're talking about a July return or something along those lines. God, if you are Nate Diaz, fighting Tyron Woodley is not getting it. You do not get it. Why would you go and fight someone who's so much bigger than you and can take you down? I know it's a big money fight, but like you are not going to be successful in that fight, and it's going to hurt your chances at the ultimate payday, which is the McGregor trilogy. So, you know, protecting that baby is the most important thing in your career right now. So yeah, you don't get it. If you're Tyron Woodley, you get it 100%. Biggest fight you can make. You know, you're going to get a huge payday. And it's an easy matchup for you. There's really no contender for him at 170 pounds that I'm, you know, dying to see. So he gets it.
I think you can sort of say he gets it for both guys. I mean, Nate Diaz, at this point, win-loss doesn't matter for him. He's Nate Diaz. People are going to, go to the event to see him. They're going to buy the pay-per-view to see him. Doesn't really matter if he's getting grinded up by Tyron Woodley. I mean, they're still going to buy his cards or watch his cards after. And so it's a big payday for both guys, particularly Woodley, because he's not used to this whole money fight thing. Diaz is coming off back-to-back fights with Conor McGregor. He certainly is. And so I think Diaz and Woodley both get it here if they do end up fighting. Woodley more so than Diaz, but I'll say Diaz gets it as well. Dana White for saying Nate Diaz will not save UFC 222. Nate Diaz threw his name in the hat as far as maybe fighting Frankie Edgar on the card, saving the card, maybe not fighting Frankie Edgar, but fighting someone on the card, whether it be a short notice replacement or whoever, maybe Stefan Struve, who knows. Dana White shoots it down. Does he get it or not get it?
That doesn't get it. That's the greatest thing that could happen. Getting Nate Diaz to come in and save it's in Las Vegas, the T-Mobile Arena, so they can convert it to a big seating situation. Diaz brothers in Vegas. You have enough time to pump it up. It's the return of Nate Diaz. It's a fight he can win against a smaller dude. It's a fight that I'm interested in seeing. Come on, man. Nate fought at 155 pounds. Frankie was the old school champion at 155 pounds. That's a perfect replacement. If the UFC doesn't want to pay him for that, I don't know what you want to pay Nate Diaz to fight. Not accepting him coming back to take that fight is promotional malpractice. Dana White, how do you not fucking get it? That's a stroke of genius.
It really is. I mean, Nate Diaz, like Ariel Helwani tweeted out.
Can you imagine the card that I just laid out? I told you every fight that was on that card. Could you imagine Nate Diaz on the top of that with a Brian Ortega fighting anyone fight thrown in there too? Woo! We'd be on fire.
One fight that actually would be really fun that will never happen ever in our lifetime, or Diaz versus Brian Ortega. That'd actually be really fun.
It'd be tons of fun. Brian Ortega against Nick Diaz would be tons of fun.
Maybe that's not going to happen. I mean,
that's in fairy tale land.
There's negative chance of Nick Diaz versus.
The show's gone on too long when I've suggested that Nate Diaz return to or Nick Diaz return to actual MMA competition.
True, fair enough. Okay,
before we die, we will see Nick Diaz fight again. That's a prediction that I'll stand by, though.
Last one. So Fabricio Verdum, he's been doing well. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, wins over Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura, the latter in the UFC Sydney main event. Despite that, he's been, in and around a lot of controversy over the past few months. In Sydney, he threw a boomerang at Colby Covington, had to pay $600 to Australia. In September,
amazing.
During a UFC luncheon in Los Angeles, he got into a verbal altercation with Tony Ferguson. Use some bad words. And if you want to go back even further, at the end of 2016, he put on an anti-Reebok protest, which is fantastic, on Instagram, and that got him fired from his UFC Spanish commentating duties. Well, the UFC just rehired him. Starting this weekend, he will be returning back to those commentary duties on the Spanish UFC broadcast. Fox Deportes, UFC 221, Rockhold, Romero. Does the UFC get it here for rehiring Vacavalo?
Yeah, gets it. I don't know. He seems like a fuck up constantly, but like he sounds like a guy who would be entertaining to listen to in a broadcast situation. I don't speak Spanish, but I imagine I'd like to hear him speak Spanish a bunch. So cool.
Fighters don't make enough money. Yeah, I mean the thing is, this is prime UFC for having a guy who sort of.
I wonder if this is broadcasting me or Nicholas, and who's got the internet issue.
Pats him on the head, and there you go, rehired. So,
boom.
Not surprised, and I think they all get it there. All right, no dumb questions. Shame on you guys for not submitting any, but oh, you know what? There is one dumb question. It was submitted to us like a week or two ago.
Okay.
And they submitted it. It's actually Raging MMA podcast on Twitter. It's Shaquille and Keaton Johnson, UFC Lightweights podcast. So their official Twitter account gave us a dumb question, and they sent it like the day after we recorded. So,
solid viewership, guys. Really appreciate it.
He said to me, When is your pro MMA career taking off?
Oh God! I would actually. You need to get in have a BJJ class, right?
Well,
Like
I've
we
done
still
it before. Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yep.
Did someone choke you unconscious?
No,
Why'd you tap like a bitch?
I didn't. Maybe
So,
figuratively, but
okay. So, but no one choked you at all, the entire class.
I honestly don't remember. That was like a year ago.
You just like worked shrimping out.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it was basic stuff. I mean, okay, you've never done jujitsu in your life. Well, you don't start. Okay, let's practice anaconda chokes now.
Well, actually, the first thing I would do if I was teaching a BJJ class is just choke every single person unconscious and be like, "I'm the best here," so just everyone knows.
Black belt confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. I awarded myself black belt.
Andrew Lawrence needs to. You need to set up. You need to create a real life in Brooklyn academy, the Clown Kid Academy.
Oh yeah, give out my own belt ranking system. It's its own martial art, being the Clown Kid.
Your slogan could be black belts handed out on the reg.
Yeah, black belts on the rag. Shorten it.
You draw everybody in because they're thinking, "Oh, I want to be a black belt." It seems like this is the quickest way to do it, and so.
Listen, that is a way that martial arts dojos have been operating for decades. That is not a new scheme.
That's true. As you said, you're a businessman, soon to be international. So maybe you've been making the trips over to California to expand the Clown Kid Academy.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Well, I think that's a good way to end the show off.
Solid way.
Episode 149 of the MMA Circus is in the books. Thank you all for tuning in, whether you're watching here live on YouTube or on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Google Play, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Player FM, Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict, and I think that's it. Whether you're on there or YouTube, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Andrew, where can everybody find you?
MiddleEasy.com, your source for all MMA news that matters. On Twitter, at the Clown Kid. Type in those 3 magical words and you've unlocked the tweets of Andrew Lawrence. Enjoy them.
You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my MMA writing over at bloodyelbow.com. Not to copy Andrew, but that's where you can find all the MMA news that matters. Go give this video a thumbs up down there. Go subscribe to the MMA Circus YouTube channel down there. If you haven't already, if you have any feedback, you hated this show, you loved it, or you're somewhere in between, or you just have some dumb thing to say, go drop it down in the comment section, and we would certainly appreciate.
Please say something rude about Nick in the comment section.
And good about Andrew.
Please.
Thank you all for watching. For Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, my name's Nick Baldwin, and we're out.
What up, Sherry?